Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering Adventure Comics 177, The Hot Rod Chariot Races, or Race. Either or, doesn't really matter. There's at least one chariot race in the story. I don't know if it's actually multiple chariot races. This is a story where the two halves, the first half and the second half, don't quite gel together. Now, it's not as bad as some other ones that feel incredibly disjointed, but these ones don't fit particularly well, especially when we get into sort of character arcs and resolutions in the second part, being kind of taken away by the story that's set up in the second part. So, the first half of the story, what we're setting up is sort of like an after school special about street racings and teens, which there's probably been a lot of after school specials about hot rodding kids, especially like in the 50s and 60s when that was particularly at its height. It still happens. I just feel like that's more of a cliche for a 50s high school drama than it is like a modern high school drama, especially the classic Hot Rods. One of Clark's classmates almost gets a bunch of people killed racing. So Clark is trying to deal with that. And you think, well, maybe he just kind of shows them around, shows them the horrors of all this. Maybe worse things happen that he saves them from. There's a lot of ways for him to teach him a lesson. But you've noticed I've mentioned chariot races, right? The second half of the story, which is still being set up in the first half, so it's not incredibly out of nowhere. His history teacher has evidence of Ben-Hur, but he gets called out of being a fake by the historical community and has lost all his credibility. So Clark wants to help him out. Now, Ben-Hur is not actually a real person. He might be based on several people from history or myth, legend, but there wasn't really an actual Ben-Hur. The historical community is absolutely right. So Clark is going to go back in time and try to prove this, though he goes back in time believing that Ben-Hur really does exist. So he could be up for a massive disappointment when he actually gets there. And he decides to take the kid with him. So this is how the kid's going to be learning the lesson about the danger of racing. Just not car racing, chariot racing, which is a dangerous sport. It's just dangerous in different ways. Like, you don't race chariots on the street around people. Pedestrians and other pedestrian chariots aren't going to be a problem. It's kind of safer in a weird way. Like, there's a give and take. I just don't feel like you're learning the specific street racing problem from the chariot races. The other problem with the chariot race is Superboy is there the whole time. It never feels like anyone is in particularly any actual danger. He's like right there making sure nothing is going wrong. So it's not him like having to jumble things and barely saving people or having difficulty getting to them. No, he's like there waiting the entire time. It feels like a breeze, which takes away from the excitement of the chariot race. All the threat and suspense is gone. And then the story is, once it gets back in time, is more focused on the fact that gamblers are ruining the Greek sports. They're fixing all the games. So that's what he's really focused on. And we sort of have our young racer involved. But the story ends up not being quite about him. He kind of gets in danger in the race. But it's about him stopping the gamblers, which we could have done without, especially in a short story, and the fact that we didn't deal with gambling in the first half. I mean, street racing has a lot of gambling involved, so you could have set that up. But no. The other thing is who Ben-Hur ends up being. Now, from the start of this, you probably expected it to turn out to be either Superboy Clark or the kid he brought back, right? That sort of brings those two stories together. No, it's a third guy who doesn't get a lot of time in the story. He just wins the chariot race at the end and reveals that he's actually Ben-Hur. And Clark finds out where his name will be written down so they can find it. And I guess without him, he wouldn't have won the race to begin with because it was fixed. But it still feels like a plot that's resolving without it being affected much by Superboy. It's not the problem where I complain like, yeah, this would have happened without Superboy. But it's kind of in the area. It's maybe a step or two above it. It's still a very weak idea for Superboy to be dealing with. It'd be much stronger if it was his friend or him that turned out to be Ben-Hur, or they pretended to be Ben-Hur, which still may be historically wrong, but it would prove that there was someone called Ben-Hur at the time. I'm mixed on it. I think it's a particularly weak, and I would say weak a lot into a lot of the ideas of the story, way to get to a resolution. Like it's weak for the kid to learn about the dangers of racing, not doing any street racing, but chariot racing, which was dangerous to begin with. I think both these stories could have worked on their own, especially if Clark was helping the guy he didn't know was Ben-Hur the nearly the whole story, or if he was focused on the kid and the racing for the whole story. Instead, it feels like two stories that you've sort of forced to go together. And parts of it works, but the piece doesn't completely fit. Okay, that is it from Adventure Comics 177, The Hot Rod Chariot Races. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is Bat Friday, where I cover a Batman story and either Detective Comics or Batman. Until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the boy of tomorrow? And as long as you're there, you could have done something about the horrible racing and other sports that were happening at that time. Don't argue that he doesn't get involved in changing time. He did stop the gamblers. Okay, have a great day.